All right, what's going on, y'all? It's finally time, so let's get into this reading, okay? I have been saying I'm going to do this for a while. I've done 1,000 takes of it, and listen, I got to just get out of my own way, all right? So first and foremost, follow me on IG at KikiWrites_. The underscore is missing. My best friend made this shirt, and she is still working on perfections of her craft. But one of the first things she did was made me a branding shirt that I could wear in my video. So shout out to you, bestie. I love you. All right, so it's time. Let me just give you a little bit of a background if you don't know much or if you've been living under a rock. Because listen, I have been promoting this book with everything. All right, so first and foremost, I'm an independent author. This is my first project, and it made the best sellers list. So I made it to the best sellers list my first week on Amazon. I was #1 in Black and African American romance, #1 in Black and African American suspense, and #1 in Black and African American mystery, I believe it was. So yeah, this book, the reviews are crazy. If you don't believe me, just go to Amazon and look at all these verified purchases of people who I don't know but are saying this book is really taking them back to a time where it was fun to read. And look, I'm not going to go too deep because I don't want to get too sidetracked, but I come from an era where I was excited to read. Like in my book bag with my English book and my math book, I had a novel that I was reading. Some of my favorite authors, you may know, one of my favorite books of all time, I'm standing on the back of it. Like my book is standing on the backs of books that have inspired me and just my artistry. So people like Sister Soldier, Eric Jerome Dickey, Omar Tyree, and Zane, those are some of my favorite authors. I had several of their books in my book bag on rotation. I've read some of the books twice. The Coldest Winter Ever, Fly Girl, Addicted. I read those books twice. That's how much I love them. So that's how I want to connect with audiences. I want us to get excited about literature again, excited about reading. Let's do book clubs. Like, remember the Babysitters Club? I want a book club that legit is connected around the entire world. You know, where we're wearing t-shirts because we're in this book club and it's like a secret society. That is my ultimate goal. But it's a lot to come. Right now, it's baby steps. Okay, so first, and look, I'm sweating. I got this light on me. It's crazy, but work with me. First, I'm going to read about the author, myself, okay? I edited, designed, wrote, like everything in this book is me. It's even published under Brigman Publishing. That's my last name. Amazon is distributing for me, but literally I put my blood, sweat, and tears into this book, okay? So let's talk about the author. Kamisha B. is the hottest new author out. A native of Atlanta, Georgia, her goal is to connect with audiences through literature. Her writing style is explicit, poetic, and expressive. Destined to become a bestseller with a cult following. Be on the lookout for this soon-to-be GOAT. All right, how did I do explaining myself? Does that make you want to get to know me? All right, so let's talk about the description of the book. I'm going to give you a basic synopsis, and then we'll go ahead and get started on chapter 1. Okay, so let's read the description. All Katrina wanted to do was be with Andre. She even prayed for him. What she didn't know was the best blessings sometimes come in unanswered prayers. Katrina kept knocking on heaven's door, and finally, she got what she wanted and then some. She was too young to even understand what she was getting into, but she knew it felt good until it didn't. A tale of young, fast, tragic love, broken friendships, and dark secrets meant to haunt you forever. Katrina's desire for one man would shape most of the decisions made in her life, even those that drove her to kill. This ain't gonna be no happy ending. All right, so let's get into it. Chapter 1, Best Friend. I don't remember much exciting happening before I turned 14. Back then, I hadn't had my first kiss, job, or boyfriend yet. I guess you could even say what's going on with me today is directly related to what started that year of my life. I like to persuade you from making some of the same mistakes I've made in the past. So I'll start by telling a story about the biggest mistake I've ever made. It all started in the summer of '99. It was hot as fish grease, and the best gel in the world couldn't hold my hair together for more than 2 minutes once the outside humidity set in. There was a fingertip rule in school for girls' skirts, and every day I pushed it. I kept an extra shirt and a stick of deodorant in my bag for added protection. It was always hot during the summer. But that summer, there was a heat wave. I was born and raised in Atlanta. I grew up in Summerhill, smack dab in the middle of the city. If you asked me, I would tell you I was your average teenager. Like many young teens, I was just starting to come out of my shell, I had been a straight A student my whole life. My mom was a hard ass, and I was ready to rebel. That same summer, I met someone who would eventually become my best friend. I was walking home from the bus stop after school one day. I was in my zone, listening to Ghost Town DJs, my boo. You know the one. If your game is on, give me a call, boo. My groove was interrupted when I approached this group of girls on the corner of my block fighting. One was at the bottom of the pile and was getting dog walked. I didn't know her personally, but I knew she was from my neighborhood. It wasn't any of my business, but I put myself in it. I ran over and pushed one of the 4 girls on top of her off. Next, I swung on the girl that was kicking her. Back the hell up, I demanded. And who the hell are you, one of the girls asked. Oh, you're about to find out. I bucked at her. I reached into my bag while quickly walking towards her. Having no clue what I was going to pull out, I bluffed her. One of the girls got spooked and shouted, "She got a gun!" Then they all took off. The beat up girl groaned in pain as she started to get up off the ground. I reached for her, but she pushed my hand away. "I don't need your help," she snapped. "You're right. You need some bandages, some wraps, and ice for your eye." I still helped her up despite her rude attitude. She seemed pissed off that I jumped in. I usually didn't mess with any girls from the neighborhood, and I should have kept it that way. "You want to tell me what that was about?" I asked. "No, not really. It's over now," she said, casually dusting herself off. "Okay, I get it. When I see them jumping on you tomorrow, I'm just going to mind my business like I should have done today," I wondered. "And when they do try and jump me, I'm going to stand here like I did today and fight them back," she boasted. "Girl, you were fighting the bottom of some sneakers," I corrected her. "Whatever. I was holding my own." She tried to sound convincing, but I thought she was more delusional than anything. "Girl, if holding your own means getting stomped out, then you held your own, shawty." I turned to walk away and leave her be. Someone with her attitude probably had it coming anyway. "Wait," she called out. "I'm Labrisha, but everyone calls me Bree. Thanks for having my back." She tried to shake my hand, but I was over it. I left her hanging on the handshake, but met her halfway on the introduction. "I'm Katrina, and you must be thanking me in French because it damn sure ain't English," I told her. "I guess I deserve that, but it's cool because my sister will be coming up the street in just a minute," Bree said confidently. Right then, I saw a girl come running up the block. "What you standing around for?" She grabbed Bree's hand and tried to pull her away. "Where they at? Let's go find them," the girl demanded. She was out of breath and running on pure adrenaline. She looked just like Bree, but a slightly taller, more slender version. They both were deep chocolate complected, eyes slanted like Foxy Brown, with perfect teeth. Bree's hair was long and straight down her back, while Brittany had her hair in micro braids. "Chill, Britt. We have to be strategic because there's more of them than us," Bree said while motioning her hand in a circle. Her sister and I looked at each other, confused. "Who is we?" her and I asked. "Oh, Brittany, this girl just saved my ass. Crystal, T, and those 2 high school girls they hang with tried to jump me again. Katrina came and backed all of them up. Katrina, this is my sister Brittany. Brittany, this is Katrina." Bree put her arms around us as if we were one big happy family, and we both pulled away. "Aren't you in my art class?" Brittany asked me. "Yeah, I'm in your art class," I said, completing the dap she initiated. "Appreciate what you did for my sister." "That's cool, but why are you involving yourself in her beef, though?" Brittany asked, not cracking a smile. "Well, I'm not a fan of people getting dragged in the street, and your sister was getting dragged," I told her. "Oh, please, I wasn't getting dragged," Bree jumped in. "Girl, bye. You were getting dragged, and whether you want to admit it or not, after seeing your attitude, I could see why." I'm sure I wasn't the only person in life who had told her that. "Look, I said sorry." Bree grabbed my hand, attempting to show sincerity. "Sorry for what?" Brittany asked, lost while Bree and I went back and forth. "Sorry for acting like she didn't care that I saved her ass earlier," I said, bringing Brittany up to speed. Brittany looked over at Bree. "What's she talking about, Labrisha?" "Well, I ain't asked her to jump in it. She chose to," Bree said snidely. Brittany smacked her teeth at her sister. "That's your problem now, Bree. You don't appreciate anything. She could have left you in the street getting jumped on. You need to be thankful somebody for once was on your side and didn't stand by watching you get your ass whooped." Brittany chided her sister, and I was there for every minute of it. She didn't automatically take Bree's side, and I appreciated her level head. I still felt, at the very least, Bree owed me an explanation. Although she didn't ask, I did put myself in danger, And I wanted to know, was the fight worth it? So why were those girls jumping you? I asked again. She was at a party, playing truth or dare, and things got a little crazy, Brittany interjected. Yeah, it wasn't nothing, but clearly those girls tripping about it, Bree said nonchalantly. I could tell neither of them were telling the complete truth. It's cool, Bree stunted boldly, standing there with a busted lip. Instead of probing further, I told them both I was out of it and gonna head home. Brittany could sense her sister's sudden anxiousness. Wait. So you helped her out and now you done with it? Brittany asked me. Yep. It's not my fight. Bree was getting beat down and I only jumped in so she could get back on her feet. Now that it's two of you, y'all should be okay. I regretted getting myself involved in the first place. We're still outnumbered though, Bree added. Well, it's more than what you started with when you were out there by yourself, I reminded her. Well, leave then. We don't need you anyway. I got my sister's back. Come on, Bree. Brittany snatched Bree by the hand and walked away. I turned to head home. I looked back once, and Brittany did at the same time. I could tell she and Bree were talking about me, but I didn't care to know what they were saying. Katrina, wait up, Bree yelled. What do you want, Bree? I answered, but I didn't bother to stop walking. Please, just hear me out. My sister's stubborn, so she ain't gonna say it, but girl, we need your help. I don't know if you know how Crystal and her friends roll, but you are in this now whether you want to be or not. If we don't settle this beef today, you're going to have to watch your back when you walking home tomorrow too, she warned me. Bree had a point. I didn't even think about what could happen to me for jumping in her mess. And after knowing her for 5 minutes, I could see why she wasn't liked by many. She seemed like the type that did what she wanted and never thought about the consequences. Brittany and I had stopped walking, but we didn't approach each other. Come on, Britt. We need her. Bree pleaded with her sister to come over. Reluctantly, Brittany came back. Look, I'm not going to beg someone to help me in a fight, but let me just say this. You made it worse for Bree by jumping in the fight, and now you just want to leave like that? I think that's suspect, and maybe you ain't as tough as you out here acting. Brittany started to size me up like I was the target. She was trying me, and I was ready to give her all the chimney smoke she wanted. Oh, I'm not tough because I don't want to save your sister twice? First her, now you. Y'all both got some nerve. If you're so tough, why does it matter if I'm there or not? Can't you two handle your own beef? I asked. See, Bree, I'm not about to do this. You can talk to this heifer if you want to. Brittany walked off again. Well, bye. Y'all scary ass need me. Not the other way around, I shouted. Brittany stopped in her tracks. She turned around full speed ahead. What did you just call me, she asked. You heard what I said. Scary. Bree jumped in between us. Y'all tripping. This ain't about us fighting each other. We're supposed to be fighting the girls that started this. Katrina, I appreciate what you did for me. You probably don't care, but trust me, if it were you out there, I know my sister would have done the same. Y'all acting just like each other right now. Brittany, you know good and damn well we need her, so just chill. Let's link up. Your Taurus horns are showing. Bree turned to face me. I wouldn't doubt you're a Taurus too, she said, trying to lighten the mood. Brittany and I were having a stare-down contest, so I couldn't break focus, but I heard what Bree said. She was right, actually, but I wasn't anxious to admit someone who I had imagined was soon to become an enemy of mine shared my astrological sign. I stood there quiet, and now that Bree mentioned it, Brittany was acting like a stubborn bull. I didn't break my gaze, but I answered Bree's question. I actually am a Taurus, I said. You ain't no Taurus. When's your birthday? Brittany asked aggressively as if I would lie. April 27th, I declared like I was repping my set. Girl, I'm the 28th. Bree relaxed when she realized we had something in common. Maybe we were too much alike. I wasn't thrilled, but it was quite a coincidence. Imagine going to war with someone who reminded you of yourself. I had always believed people were true to their signs, and Brittany was no different. Listen, you're right. I probably did make this worse for y'all by jumping in, but I don't want to be caught up in a beef that ain't mine, I admitted. I get it, and you don't owe us anything. Man, I just wanted for once to have a chance at beating them. They always pick on my sister, and even though Bree is a handful, it's my job to protect her no matter what. Brittany had honor, and I could only respect it. You want to come over to our house for a minute? Maybe we could reset and start fresh, Bree asked. I agreed because one, I didn't have anything better to do. Furthermore, I was open to making some girlfriends in the neighborhood. The three of us made the 2-block walk, and they both welcomed me inside a modest but well-kept home. Their room was way in the back of the house, and there was a twin bed on each side. I sat on Brittany's bed, and we ended up talking mess for hours. Brittany was cool, and besides us getting off to a bad start, I could tell she and I were going to be good peeps. I liked her way more than I liked Bree. Bree went into her mom's liquor cabinet and poured herself some wine. She offered me a glass, but I declined. Brittany looked at her disappointed. You could tell of the two of them, Bree was the troublemaker, and Brittany was the one getting them out of it. Bree hyped us up to go looking for the girls. Y'all ready? Let's go settle this once and for all. She couldn't even keep her balance long enough to put on sweatpants. Brittany went over to the mirror to put her hair in a ponytail. Brittany saw Bree struggling to change clothes and demanded she stay home. You ain't gonna do nothing but get beat up again, so stay your ass home, Brittany insisted. I'm not sitting on the side for this. They drew blood from my mouth. I'm not staying home, Bree pushed back, slurring her words, obviously tipsy. Brittany walked over to her and stood nose to nose, intimidating her littler sister. With that, Bree flopped down on the bed. I was down to go find the girls that beat Bree up because I figured if I didn't deal with it that day, I'd have to the next. Even though the odds were still stacked against us, Brittany and I had a better shot without Bree. I already seen what she could do, and it wasn't much. We left Brittany's house and walked up the block until we saw the 4 girls sitting on the corner with a group of guys. There they go, Brittany said, exposing a menacing grin. I was so nervous because Brittany and I were still outnumbered. Before I could ask if she was going right or left, she ran up and started dragging one of the girls. Without a second thought, I swung on the one closest to me, which just so happened to be the same girl I had words with earlier. The guys crowded around and started cheering. There was no way to tell whose side they were on, but they didn't do anything to stop either of us. I caught a glimpse of Brittany while I was throwing my own punches and could see that she was quick on her feet, handling the much bigger girl with ease. Another girl sat there shouting, "This is so stupid. Stop fighting." The 4th jumped in and tried to defend her friend from my blows, but I was able to pull her down by her hair and easily keep her pinned while her friend and I swapped it out. When Brittany was done boxing her opponent, she jumped in my melee. We had the upper hand, and it was about to get embarrassing for the girls. In the nick of time, the bus pulled up. Must have been one of the girls' moms who hopped off. She started swinging on everyone within arm's reach with her purse, making us all scatter. She cursed all the boys for allowing it to happen and encouraging our bad behavior. Brittany and I ran across the street laughing. My adrenaline was rushing and I couldn't feel a thing. It wasn't until Brittany asked where the blood was coming from that I realized I was bleeding. I looked down and could see blood coming through my jeans. I rolled my pant leg up to see that I had a very small stab wound. I never felt anything, but one of the girls must have stabbed me with something. That looks pretty bad, Brittany said. Nah, it doesn't hurt or anything. I think I'll be fine. I pressed on the wound and blood started gushing out. We should go to Grady right quick to be sure, Brittany suggested. Another 55 bus was coming up the street, so we hopped on it and went to the hospital. We waited forever to be seen, but it was a good thing we waited. The doctor ended up pulling a 1-inch broken piece of pencil lead out of my leg. He stitched me up, prescribed me some antibiotics, and sent me on my way. On the ride back to the neighborhood, Brittany broke down crying. "What's wrong with you, girl?" I asked. "I can't believe you rolled for me like that. I've never had someone be on my side and defend me, not even Bree. I'm always the one bailing her out." I told her it wasn't a big deal and just keep one in the chamber for me, meaning if I ever needed her, she needed to have my back as well. Brittany and I were inseparable after that, and I have a permanent scar on my leg that links us for life. There was only a few weeks left in school before summer break. And summer break was around the corner. I loved going over to Brittany and Bree's house because their mom was never home, and we pretty much did whatever we wanted. I had even convinced my mama to let me spend the night over there on more than a few occasions. Brittany and I would sneak out of the house and go to the juke joint up the street. Dion, one of the neighborhood boys' dad, owned the spot and made him work the door. Dion would let me and Brittany in because he had a major crush on her. Brittany never paid him no mind, but I always thought Dion was cool. Brittany and I never would bring Bree at first because she was always in some shit. Anything Brittany and I tried to do on the low, Bree would blow it up. When we finally did allow her to come to the juke joint with us, she got into a fight and got us all put out. Dion got in trouble for sneaking us in and stopped speaking to us after that. I could tell it wore on Brittany how much she had to look after Bree. Everything one did was attached to the other. Bree was very flamboyant and extra. People assumed because they were sisters, they both were. Ultimately, Brittany was not an angel, but she was nowhere near as bad as Bree. It didn't help that Brittany and Bree's mom was always out of town for work. Bree thought that was a free ticket to have boys over. Brittany and I did what we could to keep her under control, but anytime Bree was let out of the sight, she managed to do something shady that had people looking at us all sideways. From messing around with girls' boyfriends, to stealing out of the mall, down to fighting everywhere we go. Bree was just attracted to drama. Because Brittany was my best friend, I inherited the role of her sister's keeper as well. After school, Brittany and I would go to the spot, a teen hangout near our school. It was a house, but the owner, Evelyn, had turned the front into one big open room with a couch on each wall. She charged kids $2 to get in and sold snacks, shots, cigarettes, weed, and whatever else your money could buy. So much went down at the spot. Evelyn had one rule: no parents. And if your parents ever did show up looking for you, you were banned. Most kids took their first sip and smoke in the spot. Girls and boys would hook up and get into all types of trouble. I loved going to watch how the older opposite sexes interacted. I would be going to high school soon and wanted to know what to expect. Brittany and I were among the younger crowd and did our best to play it off and blend in. Guys would hit on Brittany sometimes, but not me so much. I would end up playing wing woman, so I wouldn't be obviously awkward, but I did wonder what it was about me that didn't pique guys' interest. Brittany said it was because I was too uptight, but I wasn't for everybody, and I wanted that to be clear. Everyone pretty much stayed in their own clique at the spot. High school girls would mean mug us and try sizing us up because they knew we were still in middle school. Brittany was always down to get with any of them because she wanted our reputation to precede us when we started ninth grade next year. I wanted to keep the peace because I didn't want a whole lot of enemies when I started high school. But of course, I always had my friends back. Like the time we were there and she saw this girl that had been hassling Bree. Brittany wanted to run down, but I told her it was a bad idea because I couldn't tell of the girls in the crowd who was clicked up with who. Brittany didn't listen, and per usual, she fired off. She walked straight up to one of the girls and asked, "What's your problem with my sister?" The girl was an upperclassman and wasn't going to let Bree's 8th grade ass approach her with that type of energy. So she stepped up. I didn't have a choice but to defend my friend. We got jumped by like 8 girls. We made it out, but not without a few scrapes and bruises. My friend was a hothead, and just like she felt she had to defend Bree, I felt like I had to defend her. We went to Southside High School. It was called South for short, or even South, depending on how country you is. I was a 14-year-old, wide-eyed freshman, and for the most part, I only talked to Brittany. School hadn't been in long. I was still peeping who's who and checking out my peers. One day, during the 4th period in gym, I was sitting in the bleachers, talking smack with Brittany. We were talking about boys and last night's episode of Living Single, my favorite show. I always wanted to be like Khadijah James growing up, and Brittany wanted to be like Maxine. We were so much like their characters on the show in real life. I was cool, collected, and artistic. Brittany was witty, charismatic, and straightforward. During gym period to kill time, Brittany and I would play a secret game where we would rank all the boys in order of most attractive to just plain old ugly. Other freshman girls spent their gym periods creating twerk routines that would get them noticed by the opposite sex. It's not like I wasn't into boys, I just didn't want to get their attention that way. Some guys were playing a game of 2-on-2 on a basketball court. One of them threw a pass, and it flew right at my head. I ducked, then this big kid came crashing into me. I fell back into the bleachers, and I immediately jumped up in attack mode. I spazzed on him. "Watch where the hell you going. It's basketball, not dodgeball." The boy stood there speechless. There I was, this teeny girl, talking to one of the most popular singers at the school like he was a lame. His boys were standing around, and they all had stopped playing the game to see how their friend would respond to the 5'2" freshman calling him out. Another girl, who I assumed at the time was his girlfriend, stepped up to me. She looked over at him and asked, "Andre, who is this little freshman girl and why does she think she can talk to you like that? Do you need me to check her?" She stood there waiting on her man to say something. I knew if she was as tough as she was trying to put on, she wouldn't ask for permission to go off. I was used to dealing with her type, though. It was always girls like her that assumed because I was reserved, I couldn't get rowdy. Little did she know, she was about to get acquainted with Katrina the Dawn. The girl was much bigger than me, but there is truth in that old saying. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. She obviously didn't mean much to the guy she was putting herself in danger for because he still hadn't answered her question. I interrupted our staring contest to warn her. Girl, you couldn't check me if you got paid today. Andre's friends instigated. Ooh, Sharice, you gonna let her talk to you like that? Sharice doesn't have a choice, I said matter-of-factly. Andre still hadn't spoken up and kept his eyes on me. I could feel him burning a hole in me from the side, but I refused to look back. His wannabe girlfriend was frozen. She was probably used to talking crap and getting away with it. But dealing with me, she was going to have to back up all that mess she was talking. Sharice's face said it all. She was an imposter. I almost felt sorry for her. She looked over at Andre again, but he was intentionally avoiding eye contact with her. Finally, Andre interjected himself. What's your name, Shawty? My name ain't Shawty, I said. Well, what is it? He asked. None ya. None ya what? None your business, Brittany said as we dapped it up laughing. Andre walked closer so he was now directly in my face. When you're done laughing, I'm still waiting on your name, he said. He was being so intense. He didn't even crack a smile. My heart started racing, and I couldn't help but give in. My name is Katrina, I told him. That's a pretty name, Katrina. You want to know mine? Nah, I don't need it. And I heard your funky little girlfriend say it anyway. I looked over at Sharice, waiting on her to speak up for herself since she had so much mouth earlier. She smacked her teeth but didn't say anything. You're solid. I like that, Andre said, laughing. Boy, whatever. I tried to turn my head away but couldn't hide that I was blushing. Hello? Brittany interrupted while waving her hand in Andre's face. What's up, Brittany? He said dryly. Y'all two know each other? I asked. I know him, Brittany said with an attitude. He ignored her shadiness. Katrina, are you going to ask me my name so we can be properly introduced? His smile was innocent but intriguing. I looked into his eyes, and it was the first time in life I ever felt hypnotized. I didn't know what color they were, but I knew they were different. I had never seen anyone with eyes like his. I swore I saw him change colors too. Before he put me in a trance, I found my voice. I don't need to know your name to know you got a problem with your vision. Next time, watch where you're shooting the ball, please. Me and Brittany went to walk away, and he ran up behind us. I could hear Sharice call out to him. Andre, where you going? He waved her off and kept towards us. He followed me to the other side of the gym and left his boys and one woman fan club right there on the court. Andre walked with me while I walked Brittany to class. She leaned in and whispered, Careful with that one, Kay. He's out of your league. She laughed it off as she entered fourth period, but I could sense the seriousness in her joke. When Brittany left, it was just he and I. Andre didn't waste any time getting all up in my business. So where you from? You got a man? What you like to do for fun? He studied me, waiting on my answer. I normally clammed up when boys got anywhere near me, but for some reason with him, I felt a sense of comfort. More importantly, I felt like he wanted to get to know me, and I had never had a guy interested enough to even ask me my name. I told Andre I was single by choice, which was a lie, but it sounded good. When we got to my class, he didn't want to leave. I smiled at him and walked into math class only to get screamed at for being late. Andre heard Mr. May yelling at me and peeked his head in the door. He waved. I'm sorry, Mr. May. It was my fault. Andre smiled like it was his get-out-of-jail card. Mr. May wasn't impressed. Get out of my classroom, Andre, he shouted. The whole class laughed. I could tell he had a reputation. Andre winked and smiled at me before he scurried out of the door. I thought about him the entire period. What did he see in me? Miss Plain Jane with nothing to offer a guy like him? Even though I felt it was a stretch that he would be interested in me, I had pictured having his babies and marrying him already. My mind had gotten caught up in the rapture of lust within minutes. When I left class, Andre was right there again. Brittany was waiting for me on the other side of the hall as well. She looked at me with an annoyed look, waiting for me to choose between her and the new cute guy trying to get to know me. Surprisingly, it wasn't a hard decision. Not wanting her to feel put on the spot, I whispered, I'll catch you later, Brittany. Cool? Her eyes said it all. She smacked her teeth and waved me off. Whatever, Katrina. Brittany, don't be like that. I tried to make light of the situation and reach for her hand, but it was too late. She was already halfway up the hall. Andre could sense that he caused a rift in my friendship and tried to apologize. I'm sorry. I was going to walk both of you to class. She didn't have to leave. I tried to play it off, although I was disappointed in myself for choosing him over her. I knew that if it were me, I would not have wanted Brittany to pick some new cute guy over our walks to class together. Andre interrupted my thoughts, asking me, "Can I walk you to the rest of your classes? Now and forever?" He stuck his arm out, and I grabbed it. He walked me to every single one of my classes that day and was outside the door after every bell. I didn't see Brittany anymore, but I couldn't help how intrigued I was by him. When the day was over, Andre offered to pay his homeboy to take me home. "Why are you being so nice to me? You don't even know me like that," I asked him. Part of me was skeptical of him. Andre confessed that he saw me a few weeks ago and had been crushing on me. Claims he was waiting on the right opportunity for us to meet. I looked into those eyes again, and I knew right there, after knowing him less than a day, I wanted him around me forever. I may not have been clear in what capacity, but I knew I needed his energy. I had never tried drugs before then, but that's what I equate the feeling to. And you know what they say about your first high. You'll chase that feeling forever. I called Brittany when I got home to tell her about my day. She picked up the phone with an attitude. "What, Katrina?" I ignored her tone and went on with my story. "Hey, best friend. I called to tell you about Andre. Girl, I think I'm in love." I was stoked, but Brittany was obviously not impressed. "Katrina, I don't want to hear all about your new friend. You know he's just out to get another notch under his belt anyway. I can't believe you're falling for it." Even if that were the case, I didn't feel like it, and I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. "Brittany, you know I'm not stupid. If that's his intention, it'll come to light, and I'll be the first one to call him on it." She took a deep breath. "Okay, if you say so. Are we meeting in the morning or what?" she asked, changing the subject. Just then I remembered that Andre said he would have his friend pick me up in the morning. Couldn't disappoint Brittany again, so I told her we were still meeting at our usual spot. The next morning, I met Brittany at the bus stop as I typically did so we could catch Marta to school. Before the bus got there, Andre had pulled up with his homie and asked me to get in. Brittany looked at me annoyed. "Really, Katrina? You gonna ride with him and leave me here?" Before I could say anything, Andre jumped in. "Chill, Brittany. Katrina already told me you were riding with us. We here to scoop both y'all." I was so happy he was quick on his feet. Brittany turned all giddy. "Well, in that case, get out and open the door for us." She was all of a sudden extremely confident. Andre hopped out, winked at me, and opened our door. She got in first behind the driver, and I slid in behind Andre. He introduced everyone. "Mont, this is my girl Katrina and her friend Brittany." Brittany leaned over to me and whispered, "The driver is mine." We dapped it up, and I was relieved that she would have a distraction so I could focus on Andre. Brittany and Mont chopped it up while I sat in the back seat, too shy to say anything in front of an audience. 10 minutes into the ride, it was clear we wasn't headed in the school's direction. I leaned over to Brittany. "I hope they don't think we're about to skip school with them." "If we are skipping school, it's cool. One day ain't gonna hurt your 4.0 GPA, Katrina." Brittany spoke loud enough for them to hear us. Her whole vibe had changed, and I didn't like it. She wanted to be viewed as cool in front of the older guys, but at my expense. Mont overheard us and interrupted. "Nah, we ain't skipping school, ladies. I'm going to pick up my girlfriend first." I could see his dimples in the rearview mirror as he smiled at us both. The back seat shook from Brittany's heart dropping to her gut. She looked over at me and mouthed, "Girlfriend? What the hell?" She started visibly pouting, and I urged her to get it together so she wouldn't embarrass herself. A few minutes later, we pulled up at Mont's girlfriend's house. She was waiting outside, and I could tell by the expression on her face and the one hand on her hip. She was pissed that there was not only one, but two girls in the back seat. Andre hopped out the front and left the door open for her to get in. She looked at Brittany and me in the back seat and asked, "Good morning. Who y'all?" Andre answered for us. "This is my girlfriend Katrina and her friend." Brittany jumped in and said, "Her friend Brittany." Mont's girlfriend wasn't amused by Brittany's assertiveness and turned around to look at him. If looks could kill, Mont would be dead. Andre squeezed in the back seat with us. He put his arm around me, and I could feel the steam coming off Brittany. I had never seen my friend be so jealous, and it wasn't a good look. We stopped by this breakfast spot, and Andre brought Brittany and I 2 bacon, egg, and cheese biscuits. When we pulled up at school, we only had about 3 minutes left before the bell would ring. I tried to run off, but not before Andre asked for a hug. I smiled and gave him a hug and kiss on the cheek. Brittany stood there with her arms folded. "Aw, you want a hug too?" Andre said with his arms out. She smiled and reached in for a full-body hug while Andre uncomfortably embraced. He and I looked at each other, and I knew without him saying anything, it was a situation I'd have to address. She and I went off to homeroom where we both had Mrs. Daniels. I wanted to talk to Brittany about her being off balance, but didn't know how to approach it without her getting defensive. When we made it to class, she asked what we all were doing later. I knew by we, she meant her, Andre, and me. Although Andre was playing nice, I knew he was only doing it so she wouldn't feel left out. I needed to set clear boundaries because it was seeming that Brittany was thinking we were going to roll as a trio. I threw a subtle hint at first. "Well, Andre and I are probably going to go hang out after school. What you going to be doing?" I separated our plans so she would catch on. She caught the hint, but wasn't happy about it. "Well, I guess since you'll be busy with your new man, I'll just find something else to do. Maybe Bree and I'll go hang out," she lied. I knew Brittany was being shady because her and Bree hadn't hung out much since Bree started acting out and hanging with the wrong crowd. We hardly even saw Bree, and although they were sisters, Brittany finally decided that sometimes blood ain't worth losing your identity for. I didn't rebuttal and decided to let it go. Brittany and I didn't talk for the rest of homeroom, and when the bell rung for first period, she dashed out of the door before I could. When I got to the hallway, Andre was there with a confused look on his face. "What's wrong?" I asked. "What's up with Brittany?" I've really been trying to be nice to her, but her vibe is throwing me off. "She knows you my girl and she's pressed." Andre was so confident calling me his girl after only knowing me for 2 days, and not once did I correct him. I was just fine with my new title. Charger. Intermission. I have to charge the iPad. All right, where we at? I was just fine with my new title. Okay. After school, I made one last ditch effort to fix whatever weirdness was going on between Brittany and me. I asked her if she wanted to catch the bus downtown to Underground and grab something to eat from the food court. She was down and told me she'd meet me after school at our usual spot. I told Andre that I would catch him later instead of riding with him as I promised. Brittany and I caught the MARTA train to 5 Points. We headed downstairs and grabbed some items from the dollar store. We looked around at a few other stores where we knew we couldn't afford anything. It was like we were prolonging getting to our destination. Finally, we got to the food court and took samples from everywhere while we chatted about everything except for the elephant in the room. We settled on our usual Chinese food special for $3.99 that came with 1 meat and 2 sides. When we got to the table, I finally built up the nerve to speak about what had been going on. "Brittany, are we good? I know it's only been a couple of days, but it just seems funny between us since Andre came along. I don't want it to feel like you and I aren't cool just because he's going to start being around more." She laughed in my face. "Katrina, I can't believe you're taking someone like this serious. Why would he want to talk to you?" Brittany was being harsh, but before I could go off, she tried to clean up her statement. "I just mean, y'all from 2 different sides of the track. Why would he come on your side unless he has something to gain?" she asked. My face said it all. I knew what she meant. I wasn't Andre's type. I mean, between the 2 of us, Brittany always got the attention of boys. They would walk up to us and not even speak to me. It was usually all about her. The one time that I got picked over her, she couldn't believe it was genuine. Instead of being happy for me, she seemed to be jealous. I understood her feelings because, truthfully, when guys ignored me and gave her all the attention, I was jealous too. But I never took it out on her. I wanted to put a bow on our conversation, so I reminded her I could think for myself. "Brittany, I'm not stupid. If he's in it for the wrong reasons, it'll come out. Just give me a little space to get to know him. He's going to prove you wrong. Watch." Brittany smirked. "Okay, Katrina, I'll follow your lead on this one. But when he shows his true colors, don't say I didn't warn you." She and I wrapped up and headed outside towards the buses. On the way to our neighborhood, I thought about Andre. Now that I straightened everything out with Brittany, I was hoping I wouldn't have to address the situation again. When I got home, I called my new boo.